Welcome to Game of Roses. This is PaceCase.
This is Bachelor Clues, and it's Friday, which means this is This Week in Bachelor Nation. We're going to give you all the Bachelor Nation news, of which there is very little. We're going to give you the top 5 Parasocial plays of the week. We're going to give you what are we watching in this chilly off season as we head into the holidays. We got screams from the pit. I got a good scream this week. It involves video gaming, and we're of course.
So do I.
Yours is involving video gaming as well,
but it doesn't. No, it's good.
Oh,
it doesn't involve video gaming.
Okay, and we are also going to be talking about a very important state of the game. A huge article just came out in the New York Times that could fundamentally change reality dating television formats forever. Maybe. We'll see. But we're going to go through that whole article with you.
Maybe in a good way.
And break it down. Maybe in a good way. Maybe. We'll see.
Could be good.
We'll see. We'll get to it. But before we do get to any of that, we have to mention we still are having our holiday sale right now. It's 25% off everything at gameofroses.co until December 31st. The matte wrapping paper is out of stock. Glossy options still available, I'm told. Be advised, the holidays may affect shipping time, so allow 2 to 4 days for processing if you would. And if you have any issues, please reach out to us via Etsy or at our email, gameofroses@gmail.com.
ROZES.
If you're just listening to this, you can also be watching this. That's correct. It's on YouTube. For those who don't yet know, this whole year, one of our big goals was to get on YouTube, get our videos churning, and now we're in the process of it. We are putting every episode we do on YouTube, and YouTube has some exclusive stuff that I do personally. It's on our Patreon as well, but it's not in podcast form. You can only see it on YouTube. A lot of Love is Blind coverage from all the scandals this past year with Tyler Francis and his children and what the nature of that relationship might actually be covered in our YouTube. And
but Clues can tell you when the definitive scandal is over.
The scandal's never over.
That's an important part.
That's what I've learned about scandals.
Mission
they last
accomplished.
Forever. Yeah, we did it. We solved it. Thank you very much. And we should also mention that I have one episode left in Clues Corner of Love Island USA Season 6. It is the reunion episode. I just watched the finale. Jesus, what a season. It has been fantastic to watch it. I absolutely love it. And now I've got about 20 songs lined up that I'm going to do for a Love Island soundtrack, which I will be premiering songs from time to time here over the next year.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
That's right. You will hear my music. But we are going to take a little break in these couple of weeks leading into the holidays from Clues Corner. Once I finish the reunion episode, which will probably be sometime this weekend, I think that'll be it for a little while. I'm going to take a little 2-week break. Then I'm going to come back hitting the pavement hard in January with January 9th, Traitors Season 3. I think that same week is Special Forces World's Toughest Test Season 3 with Trista and who's the other it's Ali Fedotowsky. Yeah, and Trista Rain Sutter are going to be on that show. And of course on Traitors is Gabby Windy, Wells Adams. And then we have Grant Ellis'
season. Your best friend and your enemy.
I don't know about that. Then we have Grant Ellis' season airing later that month. Then we have Love is Blind Season 8, the Minnesota season, starts airing February 14th. Oh. So right in the new year is just going to be a tidal wave. We're covering it all. So join us for that. That's
so many corners. That's a tetrahedron.
I'm going to be doing corners multiple times a day at some point during that for sure. Because I think Traitors, comes out Wednesday nights, if I remember right. And I want to say Special Forces is on Thursday nights. There might be a time where I got to double those up in a day. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. At any rate.
Well, Palapa will not be doubling up in a day.
Oh, nice.
But Palapas will be coming out. I'm almost done with Vanderpump season 11. R.I.P. the OG Vanderpump cast. Very sad. We also have some horrible breaking news from Vanderpump, which we will get to. But my next Palapa, I think, is going to be this season of The Ultimatum because a hetero ultimatum just came out and it is so messy. I started watching it and I was like, this might be, I think the pit deserves to see this content. It is, I can't wait to see where it goes. So great characters.
I feel the same way about 90 Day Last Chance Resort, by the way. There is a brewing kind of like triangle of hatred between three players that is like...
Great. I started watching it because you told me to. We'll get to it in What Do We Watch?
Yeah, exactly. But right now, let's kick things off. This is
Game of Roses. State of the game.
So for those who don't know, this giant, and by the way, for those who don't know, almost everyone DM'd this to me. I received almost as many DMs about this as I did about the Golden Divorce when it was going down. So this big article came out in the New York Times. We're going to literally read it word for word in our State of the Game and discuss it as we go, because everything in it is massively important in terms of how this could shape the future of reality television production, specifically the dating shows, in my opinion. So let's begin it. Here we go.
Speaking of.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I can't access the article. Can you copy and paste it in this?
How does I do that? Let's
open
see.
the article, go Control A, Control C, and then open the doc and go Control V.
C, Control what? All right, I'm going to just try this.
It's just select all, copy.
I know how to copy and paste. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
It's in there. It's in there for you.
Great.
The bigger question is, how can you not access it?
You have to log into New York Times.
Just got to log into Gmail. Anyways, let's begin.
Wait,
Are you ready?
You can just use an email?
Yeah. They let you have like 3 or 4 free articles. This is also, the State of the Game is also how to read a New York Times article is now being discussed
Look,
as well.
I read my articles on TikTok.
Okay. Here we go. This
I like
is
to be read to me.
Written by Julia Jacobs, and it came out December 11th, yesterday at noon. We are recording this on Thursday. The headline is Labor Board classifies Love is Blind contestants as employees. The sub headline is the National Labor Relations Board's case against the Netflix hit could have ripple effects across the reality TV industry. Let's begin. The National Labor Relations Board issued a complaint against the hit reality show Love is Blind on Wednesday, in which it classified the show's contestants as employees, opening a case that could have ripple effects across the reality television industry. The complaint by the Labor Board's regional office in Minnesota says that the show committed several labor violations, including unlawful contractual terms related to confidentiality and non-compete provisions. Let's take a pause and now look at this. Let's talk about what we've just read. This is the National Labor Relations Board has issued a formal legal complaint against Netflix, Kinetic Content, that's Chris Cohen's company who does Love is Blind, all of this. And they're saying that
NLRB versus NRU.
Nice. I like that. NLRB versus NRU rolls right off the tongue. These they're basically saying that it's unlawful to have in the contract the confidentiality clause and the non-compete provisions. That's one part of this. That's the part where it says you can't talk about our show and you can't go on another show for X amount of time after your season completes. Let's continue. By classifying the cast members who date and sometimes marry other singles on the show as employees with certain federal legal protections, the complaint opens the door to possible unionization. It is one of the Labor Board's first forays into reality television and a major development in the effort by some on-screen personalities to change the industry through the legal system. So this, in the third paragraph of this article, it's already saying this is a pathway to unionization, something we have talked about on the show for literal years. We know Bethany Frankel is kind of mounting some effort to try and get this to happen, but this seems to me like the first real step in that direction. Yes, this is the Federal Labor Board basically saying the contracts that you're using in these reality shows are unlawful. Fascinating to me.
Several contestants on Love is Blind, which streams on Netflix and has been one of the buzziest dating shows since its debut in 2020, have come forward in lawsuits, in interviews, and on social media with objections to the restrictions outlined in their contracts. One contestant, Renee Poche, became involved in a legal dispute with the show after she publicly accused the production of allowing her to become engaged in front of TV cameras to a man, quote, who was unemployed with a negative balance in his bank account. She said in court papers that after she had made, quote, limited public remarks about her distressing time on the program, one of the companies behind the production initiated arbitration proceedings against her, accusing her of violating her non-disclosure agreement and seeking $4 million. Poche, a veterinarian who lives in Texas, said she had earned a stipend of $1,000 per week, adding up to a total of $8,000.
So this is just a little
definitely
background.
Talked about the Renee Poche piece. There's a lot more to this, including the producers telling producers she had a fear of this man and he had a gun.
So the rest of this, or this little chunk of the article, is kind of giving you some backstory to the various legal tangles that Netflix and Connect Content has found themselves in over the past year or so. And here it continues. The two Love is Blind participants, Poche and Nick Thompson, submitted complaints to the labor board, resulting in an investigation into the policies and practices of the production companies behind the show, which include Kinetic Content and Delirium TV. A lawyer representing the production companies declined to comment. Representatives for Netflix, which streams the show but is not listed in the complaint, did not respond to a request for comment. Yeah, no
Classic.
shit. A Love is Blind
Wait, you want to make our shows way more expensive to produce and not have as much control over?
We'll probably talk about this when we finish reading the article too, but what is happening right here is a production practices that have been in place for literal decades. I would say since the 90s, really, with Real World. And I mean, the Jenny Jones case, that's a big one. Go back and read about it. If you don't know about the Jenny Jones case, Warner Brothers basically successfully defended after an appeal the fact that Jenny Jones did an episode where it was people would come on and reveal their secret crushes. A guy came on, revealed his crush to a male friend. That male friend then killed that man a week after the show aired or something like this. And that man's family then sued Jenny Jones, Warner Brothers, won the lawsuit initially, saying that the show was accountable for those actions. But then Warner Brothers successfully appealed it. And that appeal, because it won, got the case resolved. No one owed anyone money. And the contract they use that says we are completely not responsible for anything that happens as a result of you appearing in the show has been in place basically since that time. Let's move on in this article. A Love is Blind season features 30 singles who date one another from separate rooms known as pods. Their conversations are fed through speakers and they do not see whom they are talking with unless they decide to become engaged. A commitment that also comes with a wedding where they can say, I do, or walk away. The production companies have long defended their treatment of the cast members, arguing that every decision the contestants make is up to them. We document, this is a quote from Chris Colin now. We document the independent choices of adults who volunteer to participate in a social experiment, the show's creator Chris Colin said in a statement to People magazine amid complaints last year, their journey, quote, is not scripted nor is it filmed around the clock. We have no knowledge or control over what occurs in private living spaces when not filming, and participants may choose to end their journey at any time. This is just spin. It is spin control. To say that they don't do anything. We document the independent choices of adults.
They just
blah,
document
blah, blah.
it.
Exactly. Do they? Because I'm pretty sure you hire two hosts named the Lachey's who are paid millions of dollars to do this. I'm pretty sure you force them into situations they wouldn't normally be in. Like when you have the third parties of love triangles come back to try and blow up relationships, or you send them to a strip club, or you tell the women, you guys are going to go out and party at this club. Do you remember that season where the guy Matt and Colleen was her name, I think, got into a huge fight because the producers basically took all the women out to an after party, sent the guys home, and the dude was like, what the fuck, you going out and partying without me? And it was like, well, no, the producers made us do that. So that's a straight lie.
And
that it's not
having
controlled
it
by
in
them.
the contract that if they don't show up to the rematching or divorcing ceremony, that they have to pay $50,000. Other things like that are influencing whether this is just a documentary of a social experiment.
That exact thing is in this article a little bit later, and we will get to it. We have a little bit more of the article, and then we can have a general conversation about this. I just find it fascinating. In defending themselves against legal actions, the companies have asserted that the show's participants are not employees. The labor board's complaint demands that the show reclassify its participants as employees and rescind what it calls unlawful contractual provisions. Now, if this happens, if they have to qualify people on reality TV as employees, they will then fall under all the protections granted to them by labor laws. And that's where you start to get into like a unionization push, because it's a very specific kind of work that has its own, specific parameters that may need to be looked at under heavier scrutiny and have some kind of charter drawn up about, well, what can you do? It's like what Screen Actors Guild is, or Writers Guild, or Directors Guild. It
you
would
have
basically
to
be like
have
that.
breaks this many hours. You have to have food. You have to be allowed to go to the bathroom, et cetera, et cetera. Where are we? Complaints?
Complaints are issued, yeah.
Complaints are issued after a labor board regional office concludes that there is merit to accusations that have been made against an employer. They are then litigated before an administrative law judge who will determine whether the employer has violated the law. The employers could appeal a decision to the National Labor Board in Washington. In a statement, Brian Friedman, a lawyer representing Poche and several other reality television litigants outside Love is Blind, said in a statement on Wednesday that he thought the labor complaint had the potential to transform the industry.
This first part of this paragraph where it says that the employers could appeal a decision to the National Labor Board in Washington, I think that will happen. I think this initial decision is going to be against Netflix, against Kinetic. It's going to say that you have to treat them as employees, which means they are covered and protected under all kinds of labor laws. They're going to appeal that because it will drastically alter the way they are producing these reality TV shows. You're not going to be able to. It will
cost a lot more money to them.
Not only a lot more money, there's going to be a lot of the psychological tactics that they use, especially in Bachelor, sleep deprivation, keeping them drunk, not giving them food. All of that is out the window. Let's move on. This
Signing away their civil rights, for instance.
The contracts will have to be changed for sure. So Brian Friedman, this lawyer, goes on to say, cast members are stripped of fundamental rights, gagged from speaking out, denied legal recourse, paid virtually nothing, subjected to the ever-present threat of ruinous liquidated damages, and prevented from working elsewhere. These practices must stop. This is what we've been talking about. In the world of reality television, where wild on-screen behavior is often rewarded with higher ratings, production companies have long sought to reduce their exposure to litigation with tightly written contracts laden with confidentiality provisions and other restrictions. The complaint by the National Labor Relations Board outlines provisions in Love is Blind contracts that it deems unlawful. One is a non-compete provision that says cast members cannot give interviews or make news media appearances on their, quote, own behalf or for any third party for 1 year after their last episode airs. We have seen this so many times. Players come
trying
off
to
of
get guests
Bachelor
on our show.
Yeah, exactly. We have to wait a year basically for the producers to be like, they don't have control over what podcast you can go on anymore. But even beyond that, it's about like some players want to start their own podcasts. Jed Wyatt or whatever. I think Katie Thurston fell into this category as well. She wanted to do something like this. Yeah. And she couldn't do it because the producers are like, nope, that clause is in there. We get to decide what you can do in media after our show. And this complaint is basically saying that's unlawful. If that gets overturned, I mean, Jesus, everybody's going to have a podcast while their season is airing.
And they should.
I agree.
I don't even think that hurts the company. I think that helps the company. You're only going to be more publicized.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to me at all.
I totally agree with that. It's a fear of control, losing control. And that to me means you've got some secrets that you don't want coming out. Now, the flip side of this is when those secrets do come out, if this whole thing goes down and it's like, all right, you can do your podcast whenever you want. You can start a YouTube channel immediately if you want. What can you say on it? Because the other part of this is the non-disclosure agreement. Can you talk about producing tactics, et cetera, et cetera? If that goes away, then we're looking at pro wrestling. Like all the players are just going to talk exactly about the bullshit, the fakery of it. And that's going to be cool. I think that'll actually help usher in like this better era of reality TV.
I think all of these things are better. And I think that the quality of the product will be better when these are employees. And when you're actually giving people like that is what they are. They are employees. And currently they're just being like, it's just like it hasn't been unionized yet. It hasn't gotten to this point and people don't really recognize it as work and et cetera, et cetera. But the the diabolical levels of control. They even approve like what parties you can go to. You have to technically say, "Hey, can I go to this party?"
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a wild degree of control they have been able to maintain for quite some time. Another is a contractual term saying that if a contestant wishes to leave the show and the production deems that the person's reasoning not, quote, legitimate, the contestant would be subject to a $50,000 fine. Cullen said in an interview with Variety last year that the penalty had never been enforced, describing it as a clause that goes back to the earliest days of unscripted television.
I remember reading
that's
that.
Just there for nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't even put that in there. It's just in there. It just keeps getting copy and pasted throughout the decades. And we've never enforced it. We've just threatened to enforce it to get people to go to the final altar. We've never actually enforced it. Just threatened.
No, it's not real. We don't take it out. That would be.
It's absurd.
It's a tradition.
Yeah. That reaction, we've never enforced it, is like, but it's in the contract and it's in all bold.
You decide everything to put in the contract.
Yeah. And you read that contract. When you sign it, you either read it or you have a lawyer friend read it for you. And they bring that up. They say, look, if you get in a situation, they could fucking charge you $50,000 for this. It's in your head, whether they're going to enforce it or not. You're enforcing it on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, what kind of way is that to have people, in quotes, actually find love? Like, what's really happening here is you're starting to see now, it's in the New York Times finally. This is a very public thing. It's right out in front of all the cameras.
It's on ABC right now.
Yeah, we saw a piece on ABC News about it. And it's like the idea that this shit is in these contracts starts to strip away the premise they're selling you, that it's like, this is just an experiment to help people find love. It's like, no, it's not. You're using all these terrible tactics to force them to go to the end of your pre-scripted narrative that they have to get married. And it's all right here in black and white. I absolutely love it. So let's move on. This complaint seeks to make the production companies pay former cast members for any wages they lost by agreeing to those provisions. This could be gigantic, because how you calculate, what wages they could have lost, I don't know. You could get real creative with that. You could start saying, well, I was going to launch a podcast. And if you look at Out of the Pods with Deepti and Natalie, they're making shitloads of money off of that thing. Mine could have been that good. You don't know. So you owe me what they made.
I got an offer for millions of dollars to do this car commercial.
Yeah. I mean, that's a legitimate one. If you have like an offer on the table with a dollar amount that you couldn't take because the producer said no, that's open and shut. But there's this other gray area of, well, these are things I wanted to do and they told me no. And I have no real way of measuring what the success financially of those things could have been, other than by looking at the most successful things in that field. And if I'm comparing myself to Out of the Pods, that's what I think I could have made. You owe me $10 million. Because this would have been on for X amount of years or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how you even get to those numbers.
You owe me clout.
Yeah, exactly. You have to pay bots to follow my Instagram account. I should have at least 5 million Instagram followers at this point.
I should be in the million club by now.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
All right, moving on. Thompson, who we interviewed on this very show, Girl, Nick Thompson, a cast member from the show's second season, began criticizing Love is Blind publicly more than a year after Netflix aired the episodes about his courtship with and marriage to another contestant, Danielle Rule. In news interviews and on his own podcast, Thompson described the emotional turmoil of being a participant on the show, long filming hours, and what he viewed as manipulated conflict with Rule. The couple are now separated. Quote, reality TV has escaped labor laws, he said on his podcast last year. Reality TV has escaped any kind of regulation. The labor complaint, which was signed by Jennifer A. Hadsall, the regional director in Minneapolis, noted that Thompson had received a letter from the production that accused him of making, quote, escalated falsehoods and threatened legal action over what the board deemed protected employee activity. So that right there, that phrase, protected employee activity, that's what this is really boiling down to. If this complaint goes all the way through, and it is deemed that indeed people who are on reality television shows are employees of the production companies, the studios, the streamers, they are then protected as employees, which means they can talk about the workplace, which means they are owed money and they are owed fair treatment. Those are kind of the big pieces of what a union can bring to the table. And if that's the case, like I'm saying, I think that's like the the sauce wars are won across the board for any TV show. If that gets opened up, you can talk about anything you want. And is that going to change how the TV shows are produced? If those producers know, like, this guy that we're pulling a fucking Chase Rice or a Champagne Gate, knowing that anyone involved in it can just go on a podcast literally the next day if they want and be like, no, they fucked us over. That's not real. I can't wait. I can't wait for this era.
I remember when Nick and Jeremy came on our podcast and we were talking to them, and they were like, they were already filing certain paperwork as if they were employees, but then not giving them like the good things of being employees.
That's exactly, I think, the crack that opened this whole thing wide open was Nick Thompson and Jeremy Hartwell. Hartwell is a lawyer, I believe. And he was able to look at this and be like, wait a minute. For taxes, they're filing us as employees, but they didn't pay us as employees. They didn't treat us as employees. So that was the critical error, is that whoever it was, if it was Kinetic Content or Netflix, filed for everyone on that show for tax purposes to be employees of the company, but they weren't giving them all the benefits of employees. And I think that was it. That's what brought this whole thing down. Yeah.
The labor dispute throws into question part of the formula for a series that has become a reliable success for Netflix, generating spin-offs and international editions. Its 8th season, with contestants from Minneapolis, is scheduled to start streaming in February. This year, Netflix and the production companies behind Love is Blind agreed to a $1.4 million settlement in a class action lawsuit brought by a former participant, Jeremy Hartwell. His lawyers calculated that people featured on the show were paid about $7 an hour, less than half of the minimum wage in California, where part of the show is filmed. The settlement, which does not include any admission from the production companies that the contestants qualified as employees, is subject to court approval.
And the final paragraph here, Allison L. Belovin, a labor lawyer, said that because leadership of the labor board changes with presidential administrations, there was uncertainty over whether the administration of President-elect Donald J. Trump would take a different stance on the case. So that's why this complaint was filed on December 11th, 2024. They had to get it in the calendar year before the next administration comes in and shakes up who is controlling the labor board. This is obviously a giant bombshell, and the repercussions of this, however it plays out, will affect reality television for the foreseeable future. If this all gets dismissed, which I don't think that's going to happen, but let's say it does. I mean, who knows if it gets appealed to Washington? Right. Maybe it does get dismissed. I don't know. But if it gets dismissed, I think you are going to see not only practices continue as they are now, but I think there will be a little bit of retribution. I think there will be a little butt hurtness on the part of the producers, especially Love is Blind, but probably across the whole show. Like right now, what is happening is it's reality players versus reality producers. It's the players basically are, not striking, but they're moving to say, we need shit to change. And the people who control the system, your streamers, your studios, your production companies, are saying, we've done it this way for 20 years. Fuck you. One of them is going to win. And I think even if the production companies win, they're going to be mad that any of this even happened. And for a couple of seasons,
I'm sure they're so mad already.
Oh, of course. None of these people want to be involved in this.
They're like, oh, we made you famous. I'm really hoping that this is successful. I think like part of the problem is that reality TV, like versus scripted TV, which has been unionized, for some time, it has a greater churn of the cast. It's like continuously replenishing, except for like certain shows like Housewives, some of the Bravo shows. But I'm really hoping this happens because I think that it will result in greater product.
Yeah, I would say like what I see the union being for reality performers, it's kind of a mixture of SAG and all the players' unions of professional sports. Because I would say the churn you're talking about is more akin to like a pro sport. Most players that come into pro sports only last a couple of seasons and then they're out. They get injured or they can't hack it or whatever. It's rare that you see like a LeBron James who's playing well into his 40s and shit like that. Same in reality TV. Most reality TV players come in, you get one season and you're done and you don't even get remembered for that season. It's the exceptional players who can kind of like branch out. They come back for multiple seasons of their franchise. They go into other franchises. They go into third wave shows. But that's starting to happen now in a very real way. And reality television production is only expanding. There's new shows coming out literally every year from every network, every streamer, new formats. And so I don't think this is going away. It truly is. I'm just so curious to see how this shakes out. But a fantastic article. Please read this. We just read the whole thing to you, but please go read it for yourself. Draw your own conclusions.
Click on this article.
Yeah.
Give it some engagement. Send it to your friends.
Yeah.
Not Chad. He's already gotten it.
This is the second best thing that I've read in the New York Times this year.
What's the number one?
When I had to go into the New York Times and say that I wrote the George Carlin comedy special for Dudes.
Okay.
my announcement, my official statement.
Top 10 podcast moment of the year.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you for joining us with the state of the game. I mean, it just really, we have never seen something, in my opinion. I mean, it's not even my opinion. We have never seen something like this.
We've been following this.
Yeah. This is the closest we've been to some kind of accountability being forced upon these producers who have made, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in the case of Bachelor, off of the backs of these people who they, in most cases, mistreat. If you're not one of the, selected players, if you're not an A couple in Love is Blind, if you're not a chosen one in Bachelor, you're going to get wrecked. And that's what you're in the show for. And I think, if you do away with that, the ability for the producers to wreck players, what you have now is an environment where the players, you'll still get the wrecking, but the players will be wrecking each other. And that's what we want to watch. I don't want to see producers doing it.
People should be getting paid for getting wrecked. I fundamentally believe.
Of course. You should be getting, in my opinion, it's SAG minimum. That's what you should be getting.
Yes.
And then if you come back for another season, you should get to 100%. Negotiate. Again, it's very much like players. You're offered, and actors are like this too.
You mean sports?
Yeah, sorry. It's very much like pro sports or whatever. You can get season-long contracts. You can get multiple year deals in scripted shows. It's basically like this. If you're on a TV show, you sign up when you sell a TV show or you get in like a pilot episode, you sign a contract that says, I will get paid this much per episode or per week, however it shakes out on that specific show for the next two or three seasons, depending on how they structure your contract. Then if that show lasts to season number 3, that contract expires and you get to renegotiate. If it's a hit show, you're getting paid, period. If it's not, if it gets canceled, fuck you very much. Goodbye. But you're still getting paid decently. And every time you go on another show, your value goes up. So your incoming rate on whatever that show may be gets elevated every time you do another show. And that should be the same in reality TV, in my opinion.
I'm trying to imagine if like the last scripted show I was on was The Good Place. If they were like, okay, Ted Danson, here's your contract. You can never say anything that happened on the set of Good Place. Like,
yeah.
It's just, there's no reason for it to be there unless you're torturing people.
Yes, unless you have some dirty, dark shit that you don't want them talking about. That's the only reason to have that clause.
Yeah.
It makes no sense otherwise. I mean, the other reason that I can see it being in there is like, as we constantly talk about on Game of Roses, these shows are lies. Yes, some people find love. Yes, some people get married. But primarily, the function of producers in these shows is to create, in quotes, good TV, in quotes, drama. So they will manufacture much of what happens. Like we know in Bachelor, the lead very often selects their top 2 or 3 people on night 1, and it doesn't change throughout the whole season. So the rest of what you're watching is the producers manipulating people into false rivalries or into this narrative or that narrative so that they can pad, 6 episodes in the middle of the season where it's not about the lead falling in love with whoever his top 2 or 3 are or whoever her top 2 or 3 are. It's about these other things that aren't real. And I think that ultimately they perceive as very detrimental to their business. If we can't keep telling the lie, if people know it's a lie, they're not going to watch. unfortunately, I would point you in the direction of World Wrestling Entertainment. When in the 80s or early 90s, when then President Vince McMahon came out and essentially said on television, yes, this is all scripted, but it's entertainment. And now now that we're openly saying this is all scripted, we are going to entertain you in a way that you have never seen before. And that gave rise to the Attitude Era. Stone Cold, The Rock, Undertaker, like the biggest era of professional wrestling happened because they admitted it's scripted. I think the same will be true in reality television.
I think for many reasons it will benefit reality TV. Yeah, maybe it costs a lot more to produce your shows, but you're going to have a better vibe when everyone is getting paid. You're paying everyone else.
Yeah.
Everyone else on the set is in a union and it is getting paid a certain rate based on the union and has certain protections, except for these people. And I think you're going to, like, there's probably a lot of people who don't go into these shows after they read the contracts. They're like, oh, well, I can't not make money for a year, or I can't, like, I don't want to sign away my civil rights or whatever. So you're going to get better talent, I think. And I don't know. I just think a better work environment in general creates better work. And I am so pro reality player union.
Me too.
I hope that this takes off.
I do too. Time will tell, but that's our state of the game. Now it's time to move on to...
What are you watching?
What are you watching?
PaceCase, what are you watching?
Clues. So, I've been trying to keep up with you in our hobby television, the 90 Day franchise.
Yeah.
And you said, well, now I'm on to The Last Resort. And I was like, okay, well, I gotta watch The Last Resort. So I started it. And oh my God, it is so good.
Yeah.
I recognize, by the way, it was a different Ukrainian woman than I was thinking of. Jovi and what's her face. I was thinking of the other blonde, really curly blonde hair lady.
I know who you're talking about as well. Yeah.
And I recognize the woman who's with Kelly, the Georgian woman. I have never seen the blonde Georgian lady, the one who's got Michael on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
She is a star.
Absolutely.
What is her name? Oh my God, I'm obsessed with her.
God damn it.
I'll look it up.
I forget her name too. I always forget all their names.
Gosh.
But
I know
her and Jasmine and Sophie, the British woman who's married to Rob, those three get involved in, I don't even know how to describe what is coming. They did a teaser for next week's episode, and I was just like, I'm going to watch that like 10 times. I can't wait.
I can explain this. Do they bring in new couples?
No. It's those, however many couples it is, like 8 couples or whatever. And then they just have them go on these little retreats. A lot of it is actually similar to things I've seen on Bachelor, like group dates and stuff where they just did one where they made them write something on a rock that was like an issue they have in their relationship or whatever. They get these big rocks, they write the word on it, and then they have to put the rock in a backpack and hike up a mountain and decide whether they want to leave the rock at the top of the mountain or carry it back down with the, these kinds of symbolic, like bullshitty whatevers. And of course that had a lot of drama, but I'm watching that as well. And still Dan to Dan.
Yeah, I just got to the one where they have to tell someone how to navigate this obstacle course with blindfold. And
wait, you're watching season... What are you watching?
Wait, is this not the most current season?
I don't think you're watching the right season.
I'm just trying to keep up with you, and wait, Kalani and Asuelu are not on the season you're watching.
Correct.
God damn it. God damn it. Okay.
It
must have started me at like season 1 or something.
Yeah, it does. You gotta arrow over to the season 2 or whatever. I don't even know what season it's on now. Damn, that's a good season 2. But
whatever. No. I'm watching an old season of The Last Resort, it turns out. I'm watching Silo season 2 and Girls season 1 on HBO Max.
Man.
Go check it out. And I think, I don't know if I even said this up top. I think I'm going to do the ultimatum for PaceCase Palapa because I started that and it's wild.
Fantastic.
Good characters. So,
nice.
And it's, and then in the NRU.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're watching. Let's move on now to talk about the couple of tids, the few crumbs we got this week in
This is Bachelor Nation News.
First up in Bachelor Nation
I don't know why
news.
you're saying crumbs. Look at this news.
One was a big crumb.
Crazy.
This is a full-ass sandwich, but there was only this and one crumb. First up in Bachelor Nation news, some golden news coming from our first ever Golden Bachelor, Gerry Turner. In an interview with People magazine this week, the Golden God shed some light on a potential reason for the stain on love that was the Golden Divorce, and he has not revealed this until now.
Turner said, there's a topic that I haven't wanted to talk about until now. I think it's time, also because it will probably clear up a lot of the mystery around what happened back in February, March, and April. As Teresa and I were trying very hard to find our lifestyle and where we were going to live and how we were going to make our life work, I was unfortunately diagnosed with cancer. At a trip to the doctor to treat a pickleball injury to his shoulder, Turner discovered that he had some indicators that he might have cancer. After more tests, Turner revealed he was diagnosed with a slow-growing bone marrow cancer called Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia, a cancer that changes white blood cells into cancer cells and builds up in the bone marrow.
Turner said, quote, unfortunately, there's no cure for it, so that weighs heavily in every decision I make. It was like 10 tons of concrete were just dropped on me, and I was in a bit of denial for a while. I didn't want to admit it.
After sharing the news with the first Golden Ring winner when they were still married, Turner said, certainly it was hard for me, but the conversation was brief, and I think she was a little bit awestruck by the news, so understandable. I wanted my life to continue on as normal as possible, and that led to me believing that as normal as possible meant spending more time with my family, my 2 daughters, my 2 son-in-laws, my granddaughters, and the importance of finding the way with Teresa was still there, but it became less of a priority.
Despite his diagnosis, Turner says he has no plans to say no to anything and has adopted Tim McGraw's "Live Like You Were Dying" as his new philosophy. Quote, I'm going to pack as much fun as I possibly can in my life and enjoy every moment. And when I'm gone, but I'm not going to have regrets. In response to Turner's revelation, Nist said that his cancer, quote, was not a factor in the ending of the relationship, at least not for me. If that was something on his part, maybe, I don't know. But no, that didn't factor into ending the relationship. Part of it was the distance, but that wasn't the only part. That's really all I will say. Our, condolences and thoughts to Gerry Turner. It cannot be fun to be going through this. Knowing that this is it. He's got, I don't know how much longer. It is slow growing, it said. I don't know anything about this specific type of cancer, but, we wish him well in whatever remains.
I hope it's very slow. Yeah. Our second and last piece of Bachelor Nation news in this slow Bachelor Nation news week, old Aaron Herb is finally going to flight school. As we all remember, old Aaron Herb self-eliminated in week 3 of the historic season 21 of The Bachelorette on the grounds that he had to head to the Air Force to enter into a special flight school under Sergeant Jenkins. Who was calling him, obviously.
Yeah. Which Sergeant Jenkins? I had so many people sending me links to Sergeant Jenkins Air Force, official pages or whatever. There's like 20 Sergeant Jenkins. The elder Herb took to his Instagram this week to finally reveal that indeed he is now leaving to start his Air Force pilot training. Next to several shots of him posing with a van and moving trailer, he wrote, quote, "Lil life update. Got the Subi fully loaded and we're off to go fly fast, pointy things. Airplane emoji, American flag emoji. P.S. No, the show wasn't scripted in the military. There's just a law called hurry up and wait that was in full effect. Smiley face ASCII." Seems like old Aaron Herb could have finished out the season if he had wanted to. Just an opinion. Congrats to him nonetheless on finally going to the flight school that supposedly forced him to leave the show in March of this year. That's 9 months ago.
The conspiracy continues.
I mean, I'm sorry. What did he have to
Maybe
leave the
he
show
can tell us
for?
the real truth once this unionization comes out.
It's absolutely absurd that they're like the way it was presented was he got the call and he has to be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Bye. I got to leave. And it's happening.
And maybe he
now?
had to be somewhere to wait.
Yeah, exactly. He's been in
I
a
don't
waiting
know.
room for the last 9
I don't
months.
know how they work.
Yeah. Nobody does, I guess, except for him. But that's it. That's all the
No,
news
he got
we
to go to
got.
the wedding. He was at the wedding.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe he got leave for that
Sure.
from the waiting room.
He parachuted out of his airplane.
Well, while there wasn't a lot of crumbs in Bachelor Nation news this week, the Parasocial play did not stop. Number 5. Ari Lyondike and his second choice for wife, Lauren Lyondike, participated in the We Listen and We Don't Judge trend this week. The caption, after sharing minor secrets with each other, such as Lauren leaving cat vomit on the toilet for the other partner to clean up, Lauren reveals that she wants to be pregnant again because Ari babies her and she loves to be babied.
Oh my God.
Caption reads, the last one caught at Ari Jr. off guard, crying, laughing emoji. This hint at another Lyondike progeny raked in 15K likes, 863,000 views.
Do you remember the first Parasocial play we ever did on this show? What it was?
No.
It was Ari Lyondike
No.
taking a video camera through their house to announce
yes.
her pregnancy with, I believe, Alessi.
Oh my God. When we were going through the Parasocial plays of the year and it said
Yeah.
the birth of the Lyondike twins, I was like, that was this year?
Yes,
Huh?
I know.
They're not even one?
I don't think so.
Look, we've had them for so long, but I guess we were tracking them when they were pre-babies.
we did. We had them 9 months before they actually existed. Moving on, our number 4 top Parasocial play of the week is Justin Glaze. He made a gorgeous homage to arguably the best movie of all time, Wicked. He continued his playing card painting series by making a Queen of Spades into both Galinda and Elphaba, finally holding it up in front of a Wicked poster. The caption reads, quote, week 8 of painting a new card every week for 52 weeks. Queen of Spades, Spades emoji, hashtag Wicked, themed, heart emoji,
Green heart emoji.
Green heart emoji, witch emoji, double heart emoji,
Pink.
fate,
Queen emoji.
queen emoji, 81.6K likes and 623K views.
Our third most important Parasocial play this week, Love Island USA Season 6's Liv Walker and Kayla Martin teamed up for a pickleball game while Rob Roush, the snake catcher, filmed and commentated in one of Kayla's newest TikToks. It's a long video of them playing. I watched the whole thing. And were other people watching this pickleball game? 1.7 million views.
Damn.
Dang.
Coming
He
in
also,
at,
I didn't put this in here, but he put out a calendar
I saw that shit.
this week, Rob Roush, that you all should check out.
I saw that
It is
shit.
astonishing.
I think the calendar is like such an underrated product for reality players that you don't see very many of them.
Yes.
If I was on any
No.
reality TV show, I'd be putting out a calendar.
We should put out a calendar of you or Skabulian.
I'll do a Scobby calendar.
Or you could be like in the wig with Scobby. I don't know. Could be good.
Number
Get
2.
him that hot calendar money.
I'm not sure there's a lot of money in it, but it's like it's a funny product and it's relatively like easy to make. You just need 12 pictures. You know?
Easy
Yeah.
and fun.
All right. Our number 2 top Parasocial play of the week is Jen Tran. Her birthday had so many Bachelor Nation players in attendance and produced a deluge of content. In a white first stole, she grabs her cake. Jonathan pours shots.
Dabs.
Sorry?
with a knife.
Oh, shit.
She stabs a cake with a knife.
What did I say?
Grabs.
Oh, sorry. In a white first still, she stabs her cake. Jonathan pours shots. On Katie Thurston's Instagram story, she tries to hook up Rachel Recchia with Jonathan for Bachelor in Paradise. She shakes her head and he finally asks one kiss. It highlights how much faster the Parasocial Queens can create interesting content as everyone waits what feels like decades for another season on sand. Original stories were posted by Katie Thurston.
It was a close race between the Tran B-Day train and our next offering, but there can only be one winner. Our Parasocial Play of the Week goes to Daddy's Home, Kelsey Anderson.
Oh, no.
Kelsey Anderson posted short, potent TikTok this week, sharing an intimate moment with Joey Grazizi climbing into bed with a cup of coffee, shirtless. He sips the cup to the audio, Daddy's Home, from Usher's Hey Daddy. The caption reads, "This one's for the girls. You're welcome." Did the girls like it? Yes. 803K likes, 6.1 million views. That's gotta feel good if you're Grazi.
Indeed. All these were great plays. Congratulations to Grazizi. There were, however, some plays made by those creators this week. Jen Tran and Sasha posted a joint reel, late birthday vlog featuring some adorable creatures. Victoria Fuller's dogs were on display, being cute and clingy, while the dog mom tried to soak in the bathtub. But our winner this week goes to Pinot and Ramen. Of course. Caitlin Bristow posted on Instagram after they had just had some surgeries, saying that everybody in the family has scars now, doing a little joint creature surgery play. Congrats to Pinot and Ramen. We wish them well. We hope they're on the mend after their surgeries. Now, it's time to delve deep into that pit and dive from the top into the murky waters below, where PaceCase and I will issue forth our screams about how our fandom of this show has drastically changed not only our lives, but our fundamental identities. The existences we now lead really can't even happen without the pit. This is...
No.
Screams from the pit!
What you got?
I don't think there's ever been
PaceCase.
a time that those words were truer, Clues, than right now, as my scream is once again coming out of my wedding planning.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Scottsdale, Arizona, Lion Deck, and Robertson Country in order to do our food tasting, and I got to tour our menu, and we finally were able to meet up with the host of After Reality, the villain ring winner from Bed Planet season 16 of The Bachelor, Courtney Robertson. And couldn't have been sweeter. You know, obviously we've known her virtually for quite some time. But she brought us 2 little glasses that had the state of Arizona and then a little heart where Scottsdale is, welcoming us to the Arizona team. And it was so cute and sweet, and we had such a great time. And she has tried to help me with the wedding planning, which is very sweet. And it was awesome. And I never thought this would be part of my life.
Yeah, it's wild. We do need a parasocial team for Scottsdale, like the Scottsdale Trenders or something. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Cactus.
I don't know at this point how many conversations we've had with Courtney over Zoom. I'm glad you got to finally meet her. I would love to.
One day, maybe at the wedding.
Yeah, it is crazy to think about, though. Doing this show has put us into these, friendships with like various players and stuff. Something that just sitting at home, when you and I and the third Phantom member of the pit, Erica, used to watch the show on my couch. To think that we would have relationships with anyone in that show is insane. And now here it is. You're hanging out with Courtney Robertson.
It was like one of those things where I'm starstruck. Yeah. But also like she's a fan of our podcast. It's a very strange situation. To think of where we were then and where we are now. And now Eric is a full doctor.
God,
and we
that's crazy
are
as well.
here.
We're doctors. We're PhDs
doctors.
of Bachelor. Well, thank you to Courtney Robertson. Also, she has a great episode out right now that came out this week where she's talking to Leslie Fema about all kinds of shit. You definitely need to check that out after Reality with Courtney Robertson. My scream this week involves video gaming. Have you heard of it?
I am getting really into it.
I'm a gamer.
Yes.
Have been since childhood. And this past week, a game came out early access called Path of Exile 2. It is humbly the greatest ARPG that has ever been made, hands down. I'm addicted. I'm playing it a lot more than I should.
RPG.
Yeah. It basically has taken the throne from the Diablo franchise, and it ain't ever going to give it back. I'm never playing Diablo again.
What kind of a character are you? What are you doing in this game?
I'm all kinds of characters. It's an ARPG.
I don't know.
Action role-playing game. Have you ever played a Diablo game?
I don't think so. Pokemon Go.
It's basically like a top-down
Stardew Valley, Sunhaven.
Isometric game where you're a character in a kind of medieval fantasy style world where there's demons and all this kind of shit. And you just run around killing everything on the screen as much as you can. So like monsters are coming at you constantly and you're just kill. And you get better loot and you level up and your guy gets more powerful, so on and so forth. That's the type of game it is. Mm-hmm. So in Path of Exile,
there's a little killing in Sunhaven.
Just a little. The point of ARPGs is killing and looting. Those are the two things you're doing kind of constantly. So in the game, in Diablo, which is the ARPG that I was playing before this kind of reluctantly, you can make the same character name. So all my characters in Diablo are named Chad Kulchin, all of them. In this game, in PoE2, you can't have repeated names. So I got to, I had Chad Kulchin, Chad K. Then the next one is Nick Vial. Then the next one
I knew it.
Ari Lyondike. I have a Hannah Brown, and I just kept going because I wanted to play all the different classes. There are 6 that existed on launch, so I have a couple of Bachelor names, and I'm just it's the first time that I've had to create this many character names where I was like, I'll just start doing Bachelor names. I don't know how deep this is going to go, but all of my characters now are going to be Bachelor characters aside from those first initial 3 Chad Kulchins or versions thereof. And it's the first time I've named Bachelor characters in a video game. I feel very honored and proud, and I'm looking forward to making some other characters. I'm looking forward to a Maria Georgia sorceress. That'll be coming, I'm sure, in the near future.
That's so fun.
Yeah, I love
that.
So that is my scream, and that is PaceCase's scream, but we ain't the only ones a screaming. If you got a scream, all you have to do to share it with us is go to patreon.com/Game of Roses. Join us on the bottom of the pit. You get access to our Discord. In that Discord is a channel called Submit Your Screams. You record a 1 minute or shorter audio or video format, if you prefer, and put it in that channel. Anya goes through all of them and gives us our the best ones right here. Today we have one from a user named _illy. I guess that's like a Emily kind of play. Let's take a listen. Are you ready, PaceCase?
Let's go.
Here we go.
Hello, PaceCase and Bachelor Clues. My name is Emily, and I work with kids in the healthcare industry. As part of this job, I have to do a lot of documentation, and on one particular day, I was writing about a child who had cried during the session because I had to take something away that he wanted. Subconsciously, I chose the words produced tears to describe this child's emotional distress. It was only until after I'd signed the note, which was to be read by my boss, insurance companies, the United States government even, that I had made this choice. It was then that I realized that the Gore lexicon has been permanently downloaded into my brain to not only affect my external conversations about The Bachelor, but my internal monologue and even official HIPAA-compliant documentation. Praise be, Dark Lord Palmer.
I love this one so much that it's like,
Wow.
even in this professional capacity, even when talking about a child, the idea of like, quote, crying is gone. Now you're producing tears. It's
so good.
high level, low
it's
level.
so relatable.
Yeah. I think the exact same thing. If I'm just like walking down the street, anything a person could be doing, I see it as gameplay. And I'll say this too. The more I watch these other reality shows and see the repeated behavioral patterns from Bachelor that are also present in them, it just reinforces it. Now I can't even watch. I mean, we've talked about this. Can't watch scripted TV shows without seeing wet thumbs and PTCs and IFIs and STCOs and all this stuff. And these things happen in real life. And if you start,
there was a wet thumb in Wicked.
Was it in the last?
We might have
third?
already talked about it. Oh,
no, I saw it. It was Ariana Grande doing it to Alphaba, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I remember it as well. But yeah, that's the only way I see these things now. And what's interesting about it to me is just how my brain works. I have come to understand that I essentially, like, what my brain likes to do is identify systems and then look for exploits in those systems. It's like a fun puzzle to me. And so clearly we've done that with Bachelor. I think we've identified the system and the exploits. But when you start to see like, oh, this system that I've identified here, there are pieces of it that exist in the broader system of reality, the broader system of humanity, you know, whatever you want to call it. That's when it starts to become fascinating, because you can reverse engineer exploits into the larger system that you've built in the smaller system. You know what I'm saying? Bye.
But I do see the word tidbits out in public, and I'm like, it's not tidbits, it's tids. I find the visual words often are leading me down these paths.
Oh, interesting. Well,
signage.
That's a scream in and of itself. Thank you once again to
Thanks, Ermily,
for this glorious scream. And like I said, if you want to submit your screams, just get on our Patreon, get on that Discord, fire them off. I'd love to see some video ones. We very rarely get a video one. It's mainly only audio, but hopefully the video will be coming soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been This Week in Bachelor Nation. We have some more episodes coming out next week. Then we're going on a 2-week break, just to let you know, for the holidays. We hope everybody has great holidays. We're going to try to have good holidays ourselves. But we thank you for joining us this year. And
we're going to try to have good holidays.
Well, I always try.
By the way, I think we do have we're going to be doing our grab bag episodes. There will be new content.
Over the course of those 2 weeks.
Before time. So you might not even notice that we're on vacation.
That's true. You may not.
But yeah, everyone have happy and safe holidays, and sending healing vibes to all of the creatures and players.
Yeah.
And praise be Dark Lord Palmer.
Please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast. Please get a friend to listen to us, and then please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast.